Well, you've got a great new album out, Sean,
Thank
called
you.
Trouble and Whiskey.
Thank you.
And the first thing I notice about it is it really sounds comfortable. There is a restraint to it. I have a feeling you're known as a blues rock guy.
Yeah.
This is the kind of blues rock I like. This is blues rock where I can appreciate what you're doing and not feel like I'm being assaulted by
Okay.
it. Was that the intent on this?
Yeah, you know, when the band and I went into, practice the songs and everything like that, once I had a lot of the arrangements worked out and the words done and stuff like that, we wanted everything to come across clean, and crisp and not overplay. And
right.
Sometimes in a gig you can, with the energy and stuff, that can happen sometimes.
Yeah.
So, in pre-production, in other words, a few times before we went in to do the album and we were getting everything together, we would figure out the tempos we wanted the song, and how many beats per minute. And we'd have all that done, so when we went in the studio, we kind of knew the tempo. Everybody kind of had their parts worked out. We all agreed on, what we were going to be doing. Then, of course, Ben Elliott, who was the producer and the engineer of the CD, and he also owns the label, American Showplace Records.
Right.
Matter of fact, it's funny, speaking about Hubert, because I was on Hubert's album in 2001, I think it was.
It was About Them Shoes?
About Them Shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was done with Ben Elliott at Showplace Records.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he was there, and Clapton and Keith Richards and a lot of guys were on that album.
Yeah.
And so it was funny, it kind of come full circle. So now Trouble and Whiskey's on, was on American Showplace. But Ben has such a great ear. He's been doing this for so long.
Right.
And recorded with some of the greats and a lot of my heroes. So and he's a guitar guy too.
Yeah.
So he's all about tone and getting good guitar sound.
Right.
So he kind of directed us in the direction, some of the stuff we thought, well, I think we like the way we're doing it this way a little better. Ben would say, just try it this way, and if you like it, we can go back to that. And then you'd listen back to it and go, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
So his ear and his magic behind the board, I think, played a big part in that too.
Sure. Did you workshop any of these songs out live before you recorded them? I know you said the band rehearsed them. Is that just a rehearsal kind of day, or did you try some of these out and see what worked?
Oh yeah, we definitely played a lot of the songs live.
Okay.
For a month and a half or maybe two. Some of them, like some of the covers, like I've always liked
Johnny
to do
Copeland one.
Yeah, I've always liked to do a couple, 2 or 3 remakes on my albums to kind of, a tip of the hat to some of my heroes.
Yeah.
And so we did a cover by Rory Gallagher, Bullfrog Blues. And that's one we've been doing for a little over a year.
Okay.
So we've been playing that, and we know that works with the crowd, so that was a good one.
Right.
And so, I'd say 4 or 5 of the songs we were playing for a while, and then 4 or 5 of them we finished up right before we went in the studio.
Yeah.
So.
As a songwriter, I always like to ask the questions. Do you write the words to a song first, or do you get a groove, a riff, a melody?
Age-old question.
I know, huh?
It's sometimes, I don't really have...
How do you chase it down?
Right. Being a guitar player, I always come up with riffs, and I like the riff, and then I'll say, I like that riff, I want to put a song around it.
Okay.
Every once in a while, I'll get a melody in my head, and I might play it on guitar, hum it, and record it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get like a hook line, like a line that sounds really cool that I think I could write something around.
Yeah.
So I usually just record my ideas, write down my lyrical ideas, and then I kind of just take all the content and try to put it together. And see where it works. Some of the songs happen really fast. Some of them take months, to kind of finish up.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, and I know sometimes the more you chase something, the more elusive it becomes.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just sort of trust that eventually it's, if you've got the right bones to the thing, it's going to come.
Sometimes when you're kind of against the wall like that and you're not getting anywhere with something that there needs to be something else there, but you're not quite sure what it is, you just put it away for a while.
Yeah.
And then come back to it, and then sometimes things start coming to
you.
Yeah. Or you may be able to take something from another song and use it as a bridge for that, or kind of maybe paste some stuff together.
Right. Now, do you have trouble taking the energy from your live shows and putting them on the CD to get that same energy?
Somewhat.
Yeah.
A lot of guys say, like they're live, they feel better playing in a live situation. Some guys I've heard say, man, I'd rather be in the studio all day long than live. I'm more of a live guy.
Okay, yeah.
Because the energy's there with the crowd, and it's kind of comes full circle.
How do you get that energy?
Well, what you have to do is when you're in the studio, you have to be in a good, comfortable atmosphere, environment, and you have to have some good, sounds in the headphones. So again, your producer and your engineer create the environment in the studio.
Okay.
They help you get a good mix in your phones. But if you're sitting there and everybody's isolated in different rooms and you can hardly hear the drums and you're hearing too much bass, it can be a problem. When we recorded this album, we each had our own little station set up next to us where everybody's instrument, you had a volume control for it. So if I wanted more snare drum, I could turn up
You
the
could
snare.
do it,
I had
okay.
my own little mix.
Yeah.
So by the time we start playing, it's kind of like a stereo. But there's been
Wow.
other cases in the studio where
Wow.
it's very sterile and
Yeah.
it's a very kind of, it's like a hospital environment. There's no energy, there's no people, and it's just you have to turn it on.
Right.
So sometimes it's not always that easy. So yeah, I would say sometimes I have to work harder at it in the studio.
Yeah.
You know, we may do a few takes
Right.
until we say, yeah, that's the one. You know?
Yeah, I noticed also on this you've got a B3, where on earlier stuff you were a trio.
Right.
What is the B3? I like the interweaving of your voice, guitar, and B3. What's it mean to you to have the B3 on here? I mean, to your sound.
I love the sound of the B3. It's a great instrument. But for what I'm doing, you know, I've been playing so long as a three-piece.
Yeah.
And as a guitar player with bass and drums behind you and no other instruments, you're always having to keep your rhythm, keep
Right.
your, you know, doing something.
Yeah.
With a B3, you know, he can fill the holes, and I
Right.
can maybe stop, sing a little bit, just
Yeah.
do some trills. So it kind of allows more space
Right.
for what I'm doing.
That's funny, because you would think it allows less space.
Yeah, no, it allows more space because he's filling those holes where I might be doing some rhythm stuff.
Right.
And it just adds that other layer to the music. It's kind of like, I kind of call it ear candy. You know,
Yeah.
it's just a nice, it's not,
It's a real rich sound.
Yeah,
that's
it's-
there. Yeah.
exactly.
Were you writing with a B3 in mind, or
Absolutely.
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. I've had a B3 player in my band for the last few years. Michael Hensley's been playing B3 for me, and he's on the album.
Okay, yeah.
And he still does some shows with me. On this tour, I got a guy named Rick Curran playing B3, and he's a fabulous player.
Yeah.
And he's done a couple tours with me before.
Right.
And but yeah, we definitely practiced with the B3, and we had, you know, definitely wanted to have it on the album. And John Ginty,
I know,
who's a
yeah.
great B3 player,
Yeah.
got his own blues band, John Ginty band out there. Also happens to live in Jersey, and is on the same label. So stopped by and performed on one of the songs with me, and actually added a couple things to the song. And so we, you know, both split it as co-writers of the song.
Nice.
And he plays on Traveling North, track number 4 on the
Okay,
album.
okay.
So. And that's a B3 heavy song. It's really cool.
Right. I love the title cut, Trouble and Whiskey, because it's actually got a little bit of a twist to it. You think it's going to be this downtrodden, oh, my troubles, I went to
Yeah.
the bottle, but there's a little
Right.
ironic,
Yeah.
cool twist. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, originally when, you know, it's funny you talk about how you know the songs are written.
Yeah.
I was writing a blues song called I Confess. And then when the song breaks and it says I confess I love you,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
always do the best I can. That was actually the first verse when I first wrote it.
Okay.
And then a guy named Jimmy Bennett, who plays guitar with the Alexis P. Suter band.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We've become good friends, and Alexis is also on the same
Yeah.
label. Ben over the studio said, why don't you try co-writing a little bit with Jimmy? He's a great songwriter. So he actually co-wrote Trouble and Whiskey with me. And he sent me that line, trouble used to be my lover.
Right.
And all that stuff. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
anyways, I made that the first verse and did I Confess as the break.
Yeah.
And ended up changing the name to Trouble and Whiskey.
Wow, it works.
So it's just kind of
Yeah.
how things, you know, you use something from here and put stuff together.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I like that one. I like Handyman.
Thanks.
I
Yeah.
like the last two songs. I got to look at it here. Gonna Groove. Wow. And
thank
Be
you.
Careful with a Fool.
Careful
yeah,
with the Fool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So,
an old
a lot of
B.B.
good-
King
Yeah.
song.
That's right. A lot of good stuff on here.
Thank you
Are
very
you
much.
Are you going to submit this for BMA's Blues Music Award?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I
'cause-
think that's in October, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the submissions have started.
Oh, have they? I think the label may have already done that.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually,
the label will be submitting because they're going to submit you and Ginty and whoever else
Right.
has had a CD out.
Yeah, it was actually just nominated for a Blues Blast Music Award for
Really?
Best Blues Rock Album.
That's right. That's
with
right.
a
yeah.
buddy of mine, Albert Castiglia,
Yep,
Mike
I know him.
Zito,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Nick Moss.
Yeah,
All those guys
all
are
those
great.
guys, yeah.
Flattered to be in the same
Sure.
category.
Well, you know,
and,
this year the Blues Music Awards have added a new category. In addition to Blues Rock Album of the Year, Blues Rock Performer of the Year.
Oh, really?
So,
Wow.
so this way they felt like people like Albert Castiglia or Nick Moss couldn't be called contemporary blues
I
or
see.
traditional blues because the album was in the blues rock category.
I
so,
see.
and
Interesting, yeah.
and the other thing they're asking people to do is to put a sticker on the album, which songs are the standout songs for Song of the Year.
Wow.
So hopefully
Cool.
your label is doing that. If not, when next time you
All
get on
right.
the phone, hip them to that.
I will.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm
I
sure
will.
that
Thanks
I'm
for the heads up.
I'm sure they've sent stuff out there. I was going to ask you one other question here. Boom, 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 boom.
pressure.
I know. So what's the difference here between this album and the one you did in 1998?
Oh, man. Well, experience for one.
Yeah.
A lot of due-paying between now and then.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, it comes from the same place.
Yeah.
I just think that I've got a lot more, you know, a lot more time and road and, you know, shows and playing under my belt. So I think it's a little more. I think it's definitely a step up from my first album.
Oh yeah.
But you know, we're still selling my first album. People are still buying it. But
That's cool.
you know, you just get in there and try to do the best you can. I think on this album I've got some great musicians, and like I said, probably the best producer and engineer I've ever worked with.
Right. That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you said before Hubert took you around the world. Has the Sean Chambers Band been able to get around the world?
I haven't.
Out of the country? I mean,
know-
are you a regional East Coast band, or what? What can fans in the other parts of the country
No, it's a good
expect?
question. I'm trying to get back over to Europe. I haven't been over to Europe in over 10 years. And after I quit playing with Hubert, I started going over to England and I went over there 3 or 4 times on my own.
Yeah.
And played with a band called Pt2 and the Union, and they would back me up. And then in 2005, Florida was hit with 4 hurricanes,
Right.
and my house got messed up, so I had to move, and I took a day job. Started kind of just playing weekends around Florida until 2009 when I put out 10 Till Midnight,
Yeah.
my 3rd CD. That kind of got me back on the map. So, you know, that's
Good.
kind of the story to sum
Yeah,
up to where I'm
yeah.
at now. But
I know you're doing a lot of work in Florida and
Yeah.
up and down the East Coast, and
right. So what my point was, which I almost got off the topic there, was after like 3 or 4 years of not going to England and not going to Europe, it's kind of now that I'm trying to get back over there, it's kind of like I feel like I'm starting over.
yeah.
But the album is doing really great over there, so
Yeah.
we're trying to find an agent to help us out.
Yeah. Well, good luck. Good
Thank
luck.
you very much.
So once
Appreciate
again, ladies and gentlemen, Art Tipaldi, editor of Blues Music Magazine, here at Don Odell's Legends with Sean Chambers, who's going to give you a great show tonight.